Hello everybody, in today's video I am going to guide you through everything you need to know to navigate the home inspection process when you're purchasing a new home. The channel is Living in Northern Arizona, where I teach you everything there is to know about living in the northern half of the state of Arizona. My name is Dawn Dickinson and I am a real estate agent in the state of Arizona. So if you ever have a question about buying or selling a home, please do me a favor and go to the description below and get my contact information. You can give me a call, text, or an email and I will get back to you. So what is a home inspection? Well, a home inspection is the evaluation of a property's condition performed by a certified licensed home inspector. And the inspector will examine the structure, the systems, and the components of the home and to identify any issues or potential problems with the property before you make the purchase. Now, what types of home inspections are there and what do I recommend? Well, for any home, I recommend you have the basic general home inspection performed by a licensed home inspector and a termite inspection. And sometimes you might want to waive the home inspection if you maybe are from a construction background and feel like you have a very good knowledge of condition. But most of the time, I'm going to recommend you do the general home inspection and the termite inspection. Now, there are other inspections that you may want to do, and I'm going to just give you a little bit of information about that. First of all, if your house is on a septic tank, you will want to have the septic inspection. And if you want to be technical, it's called the on-site wastewater facility treatment inspection. Now, the seller will pay for that inspection, so you don't really have to worry about it. But most of the other inspections, it is the buyer's responsibility to pay for them. So you want to just be a little bit careful on the inspections that you decide to schedule. And the other thing is you have a limited amount of time. You usually have 10 days as a default in Arizona, but you may sometimes ask for more time to do inspections. Sometimes I will ask for 12 days. Hard to get a seller to agree for more than 12 days for home inspections. But again, you have to have all these inspections done and results back to you within that due diligence period. So you might want to be careful and not have inspections that aren't really necessary. So if you're sensitive to mold, you may want a mold inspection where a mold inspections inspector will go in, look for mold, check the air quality for mold, that sort of thing. If you have a well, I would definitely recommend a well inspection to inspect both the equipment and the quality of the water that is coming out of that well. Some people like to get the sewer lines inspected. I think that might not be necessary, but some people really want that. You could get a roof inspection, a pool inspection, HVAC inspection, have a certified fireplace inspection, because a lot of the times the home inspectors will just say, I don't inspect fireplaces, and for safety reasons you might want to have an inspector just see if it's safe, maybe a chimney sweep to see if it's safe to burn a fire, and a foundation inspection. Now, some of these specialty inspections I might not recommend unless you know or you see something when you're looking at the home, like, ooh, there's a crack in the foundation. Maybe I have a foundation inspector look at that, or ooh, you're looking up at the roof and something looks bad, or maybe the home inspector will identify something that's like, I'm not sure about this, let's get a roof inspector out. But typically the general inspection and the termite inspection is the basic requirement, and you may not want to do much more than that for time's sake, and just because some of them are overkill. And another thing I want to say, some of these inspection companies are linked to a provider. For instance, a roof inspection, right? So a roof inspector is often sent out by the roofing company, and their goal is to get you to replace the roof. So they may say the roof needs replacing when it really doesn't, because that's how they get business. So you have to be careful of that type of unscrupulous activity. But in the general home inspection, the home inspector really has nothing to gain by marking things as having issues, because he doesn't have associations with the contractors that are going to be fixing that. So that's just something to keep in mind. So why is a home inspection important? Well, the home inspection is important because it helps you understand the property's condition and identify any issues that might need repair or any things that might need maintenance before you proceed with the purchase of the home. And it gives you an idea of the condition And if you're maybe not an experienced home buyer or you don't have the resources to do a lot of repairs down the line, it might let you know that maybe this purchase is over my head and you might want to pass and move on to something like that. Or it could say, oh, yay, this is in good condition, let's proceed, and it will give you the ability to sleep at night before you sign all of the final paperwork. So how do you go about hiring a home inspector? Well, there are a couple of ways to do it. The first is if you already have somebody in mind, say you know somebody that recently purchased a house and they liked their home inspector, or you just went on Google and found reviews and looked and decided you wanted this particular person, you can do that yourself, and then pretty quickly after your contract is accepted, you're going to want to have your agent schedule that. So immediately let your buyer's agent know if you have a home inspector you want to use, but otherwise you may want to take the recommendation of your buyer's agent. Now, I have several inspectors that I work with regularly, probably 3 or 4, and there are a couple of reasons that I have more than one. One is for timing. You know, you got 10 days and you need the inspection to be done probably within the first 5 days of the contract, because then you can deal with the outcome of the report. So maybe one inspector isn't available that week, you'll have a backup. And then you have other inspectors that might have a line of associates that do inspections that are specialty. Like one guy might say, I've got well inspectors that I work with regularly. So if you've got a well inspector, you might want to go with this guy. You may have another guy that has an associate that has mold inspectors, and if you know you're going to want a mold inspector, you might want to go with that guy. But again, it's very good if you want to rely on your agent's knowledge, because if we're doing a lot of home sales in the area, we have good established relationships with home inspectors, and we know which ones have strengths and which ones have weaknesses and which ones that might jive a little bit better with your personality. So you can rely on your buyer's agent, but certainly feel free if you want to go do research yourself and find somebody that you're free to do that as well. So once you've scheduled the inspection, what do you want to do next? Well, there are a couple of things that I want you to keep in mind. First of all, if you noticed anything when you previewed the house before you made the offer, you probably want to have a list of that, and then you could talk to the inspector beforehand and say, hey, I noticed this little crack in the patio slab. Could you please just make sure you check that out and let me know what you think? So if you have any issues, you want to communicate that before the inspector goes out there to make sure that he notices it on his first time out. The other thing is, if you can attend the inspection, that would be great, but most inspectors don't want you there the entire time, because they're probably going to be there 3, 4, 5 hours depending on the size of the property, and they don't want you really standing at the bottom while they're on the roof looking around. What it's better to do is expect that they're going to wrap it up, and then you might say, what time should I show up with my buyer? So say the inspection started at 9, they might say show up at 11:30, and they're going to review everything. So if you can be there for that review, the inspector will, now he's done everything, he's going to walk you through the results, he's going to say, oh, look, come over here and look what I found, and show it to you in person. Now, if you are an out-of-state buyer, and I get a lot of out-of-state buyers, so I do this myself frequently, you may say, I can't make it, I'm not going to fly to Arizona for half an hour. So you could send your buyer's agent, which would be me, and I show up with my camera. Of course, I am a very video-oriented agent, but I'll go with the camera. The inspector will review everything. He will go through the list, and he'll say, if there's something to look at, he'll say, come over here, and I will shoot it on video, and then I will send you a private link to a video that you could review on your own. And that's kind of nice too, because you have a record of it. If it's like super overwhelming the first time, you could go back and look at it again. But again, having that time to review with the inspector right after the inspection is very good. And most of the inspectors that I work with are very open, and they say, if you have any questions, just give me a call back later and I will answer any questions. So another piece of advice I want to give you is to not panic over little things, because it's the job of the home inspector to document everything that they see, no matter how little it is. And that's for 2 reasons. One, for liability, that if they don't miss something that they didn't think was important and you did, so they just document everything. And then of course they want to justify the amount that you paid them for the home inspection to make it look like they're doing their job. So if you get a big list of stuff back, don't go into a panic because there's stuff like, ooh, that light wouldn't turn on. Well, possibly it was a bad light bulb. You know, there's a lot of stuff that's documented that might not be a big deal, and I don't want you to get scared to death over a long list of stuff. What we want to look for is big, significant things that could cause you a problem down the road, or things that could be a safety issue. Those are the number one concern. So once the written report comes back, there are usually issues that are going to be marked into three categories. One will be safety issues. Of course, this is what's the most important thing. It will usually be marked in red as a safety issue. Often you'll see something like the electrical box might have the caps not on correctly. So anything that's safety, it's going to be marked in red probably. And those are the type of issues that you need to pay the closest attention to. There are going to be another section that might say recommended attention, and those are issues that maybe aren't safety, but here's something that you need to look at, like, oh, there is a leak in the faucet, a stain on the roof, things like that that are like, this requires attention, may not be a big deal, but we want you to look at this. And then there's a third section that's going to be maintenance items. So the stuff that has recommended attention might be marked in orange. Maintenance issues might be like, oh, the stucco has some cracks. Pretty much any house with stucco is going to have cracks in it. So those will be identified as a maintenance issue. Things like that, or that these blinds aren't working appropriately. So maybe you want to pay attention to that. So there could be a long list of maintenance issues that really aren't that important, but the inspector wants to bring those to your attention. Or like, oh, this light switch isn't working. Again, it could be a light bulb that's out. So you could have a long list of items. Don't get overwhelmed, but the things that are most important, like things like a roof leak, or, oh, the appliances aren't working, the air condition isn't cooling like it's supposed to, those are the things that you want to pay attention to. Now, after you've looked at the report, you're going to want to schedule some time with your real estate agent, and you're going to review the report. You're going to tell her or him the things that are absolutely important to you that you want to ask for fixing. Or maybe you might say, well, what do you think of this issue? And they might say, yeah, that's important, we got to ask for that. Or they might say, well, that's not a big deal, that's very common. But again, that's why it's important to get a buyer's agent who is experienced at selling homes and knows how to navigate the report and knows which things are important to ask for and which things are like, man, not so much. So once you have a list of items that you think are important, and maybe you find nothing that's really an issue, the next phase of the inspection process is you fill out and submit to the seller what we call the buyer inspection notice, and there's another section called the seller response. But we're at this point, right before the due diligence period or inspection period is over, you have to submit this written buyer inspection notice. Now, when you get the buyer inspection notice, you have three options. One is you say, the property is great. Sometimes it's a newer property. Sometimes the property has just been very well taken care of. And you're just going to say, I'm accepting the property as it is. Another time you may accept the property as it is in a very hot seller's market where you know that they've just had 15 offers, they finally accepted yours. Why would they make a bunch of repairs? Because they could just say no and then take the next offer. So you still could submit the repair request, but that's another time you might consider just saying I'm taking the property as is, as long as there are no red flags during the inspection. So again, that's one choice with the buyer inspection notice. Now the other choice is there's an area that says buyers giving the seller the opportunity to correct a few items, and you might give a list of items that you want them to repair. Now, it's not appropriate at this time to say I want $30,000 off the price. This is not your renegotiation time. This is a time to look for red flags, things that might kill the sale, things that are really important because they could cost you money or time or headaches down the line. And you want to put, if you can, if you're going to ask for repairs, keep it to the top 2 or 3 very important items. If you give a seller a list of 30 items, which I recently did, they could be overwhelmed and say, screw you, I'm not fixing anything. So if you could keep the list to 2 or 3 very important items, that would be good. Now, I also want you to say when there's something marked in the report that says the air conditioning is old, but it's functioning, just realize that it might be in the last 5 years of its life. Or, oh, the roof is old, but again, there's no leaks, it's working fine. Typically, it's not appropriate to say, I want you to replace the entire roof, or I want you to replace the entire air conditioning system. Now, that doesn't mean you can't. It's just not recommended. It's not something that we usually do. I have just probably in the last couple of years, gotten 2 transactions where I've negotiated an entire roof replacement. I didn't think it was justified, but I was representing the buyer and that's what they wanted, and I was able to do it. Kind of felt bad. Couldn't sleep for a couple of nights because I thought that wasn't really fair, especially because they were getting a good price on the property. So again, I just want you to know it's not really appropriate when things are functioning to ask for it to be replaced. What's more likely is say, give me a seller pay for a home warranty, so if it does go bad the next year that I am covered. So again, look for the top 2 or 3 most important things. If you tell your buyer's agent, I want this list of 30 things on the inspection notice, they're going to do it. I've done it before. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to lose this sale. And we didn't, but you could. Once you've listed, hopefully only 2 or 3 items that you've given to the seller has a few ways that they could respond. Now, again, if you give them a list of 30 things, or you say, I want $30,000 off the price, that's not really appropriate. They're probably going to say, sorry, I'm not doing anything. Or if the seller has said beforehand, the sale is as is because it's cheap price or whatever. Many times the seller could just say, or it's a hot market, right? The seller could say, sorry, not fixing anything. Take it or leave it. This is the take it or leave it point, right? Seller will say, nope, not fixing anything. Or seller could say, well, I'm not going to repair your roof, but if you want, I'll redo all the moldings and sealants and blah, blah, blah. Come up with some compromise. Or if you get a lift of 15, say, nah, I'll repair these 3 things and you could be on your own for the rest. Or the seller could say, well, there's 30 items on the list. I don't think they're all necessary. I'll give you a $5,000 credit. So again, this is where the seller can come back and give you some type of variation of, I'm going to do only part of your list. And again, this is the take it or leave it time. Or the seller could be nice and say, yeah, I'll fix everything. I'm just a great person. And because they really want the sale to go through. So those are the 3 responses that the seller has. Like, nope, nothing, or yeah, I'll fix some of it, or I'll fix everything. Now, if the response is not, I'll fix everything, now the buyer, you as a buyer have 2 choices. Again, take it or leave it. You take it, like, okay, you didn't replace the roof, that still had 10 years left, so all right, I'll still do the deal. Or you could say, nah, I'm just too worried about this and I'm going to cancel the contract. And at that point, you will get your escrow money back. So that's also, I didn't bring that up as one of your options right away. Like when you get that list back from the home inspector, again, you could say, I'm accepting the property. I'm giving the seller the opportunity to fix these things, and that's where the seller comes back, and then you can say yes, or I'm going to cancel the property. The third thing is you get a list back from the home inspector that is so bad that you're like, oh my goodness, I can't take it, and you just cancel right after the home inspection. Don't even give the seller the opportunity to do anything. I've had this happen several times, and you just cancel the contract. They get your escrow money back, and then you move on and look for a different property. The sellers all cry, you're sad, but this happens. And probably on a given year, I, as a real estate agent, maybe get 2 cancellations a year. Now, oddly enough, 2024 has been a weird one I have already had 5 cancellations, and it's only July. So, again, as agents, we don't like when a contract gets canceled, but I would rather you cancel a contract if you are not comfortable with going through with a purchase than having you purchase a house and regret it later. So I want to put that there. Most responsible agents feel that way, that of course we don't want to cancel a contract, but if you see something in inspection that makes you really uncomfortable and the seller is not able to come to agreement with how to remedy it, I would rather cancel it than have you pressure you into making a sale that you don't feel right with. So I just want to put that out there. Most good agents are like that as well. I really think that's everything that there is to know about the home inspection, the due diligence period. My name is Dawn Dickinson. I am a realtor in Northern Arizona, so if you ever have a question about buying or selling a home, feel free to reach out to me. I love talking about real estate. My contact information, you can give me a call, text, email. My contact information is always in the description below. Now, some people like to DM me on social media. Chances are I'm not going to see that for like 5 or 6 months. And same thing, I do like when people put comments in the videos, but I'm super busy. I might not see your comment for 3 or 4 months. In fact, I'm very guilty of not responding to comments like right away, because I might be really busy, so I might not see it for 3 or 4 months, and then I spend a whole day answering comments. So if you put in the comment, please call me, I want to buy a house, that's going to be the slowest possible way for you to get in contact with me. So again, my preferred method of contact is call, text, email. If you like the video, please do me a favor and give me a thumbs up. Consider subscribing to the channel, because I post videos like this every single week about living in Northern Arizona, and it's not always just Northern Arizona real estate. Sometimes it's real estate topics for the entire country. So if you like the video, please consider subscribing. I post videos every single week, so I hope to see you back here on the channel again next week.